is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Justified, Season 6, Episode 11, Fugitive Number 1. In this episode, may we have a moment of silence for my gone-too-soon buddy Mikey, who hated to be called Mikey. Welcome to Unspoiled.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off with no son. I'm fighting for my soul, God, get at you, boy. You try to hold on, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off with no son.
All right, welcome to the show, everyone. I'm Natasha.
And I am sad. I mean, Alan.
Same.
Yeah, this episode, shit happened.
Yeah, it did. That was so fucking heartbreaking. I know we're not there yet, and I'm not going to get too far into it, but I just had to register that.
I know. It's really, really sad. He gets... we'll get there.
I had a feeling that there was something... This wasn't going to go the way that he was acting like it was going to go. But it's so much sadder and more intense, too, than what I was expecting to happen.
Yeah, you called that this wasn't going to go so well, but I don't know if you were expecting exactly that.
No, definitely not. So we start off this episode with poor Rachel on the phone watching Art in his suit walk through the door because shit has gotten so out of hand that they have to call Daddy in. And he, walks straight past her without even looking at her, and she looks like she may cry for a second. And he's cool with her once she walks into his office, but he had to take that moment of walking past her to let her know that he pissed.
Yes.
And I just felt really bad for her because, Art knows that he's been here before himself.
Yeah.
So it's not that he's not being a Vasquez about this. I think he gets it, but he's mad. He has a right to be mad, and he can't hide that he's mad, and he's not gonna hide that he's mad. And she knows that she sort of deserves this, even though really, I don't think she does, but I guess she kind of does.
Well, I feel like he's mad because this went the way that he could have told her this was going to go had she asked him. But really, I felt like in that moment, he's mad because she has already gone and jumped on the grenade. When he was going to be the one to do that. He tried to call them to let him know that I've been puppeteering this whole thing because I just couldn't leave the job at the job, and I just couldn't put it down and crucify me, only to find out they already talked to her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that whole element of it, that she's just like, I had to take the fall on this, and he's like, you really didn't.
Yeah. There are so many people that we could have blamed, and you did not need to be at the top of that list. But she's not suspended, which is nice.
Yes, I appreciate that.
And he does throw it out to her that she got Boyd Crowder, which is something he never did.
Yes, and I appreciate him doing that too. He's doing that managerial thing where you sandwich a terrible thing in between two good things. He's like, It's not that bad. You done fucked up. Also, kind of good job on this thing. Well done, Art. Thank you.
Feedback sandwich. Yeah. I would just be remiss. I won't dwell on it. This episode was written by Taylor Elmore and Keith Schreier, directed by John Avnet. This is the last thing all three of them do for Justified. So I just wanted to shout out Taylor Elmore and John Avnet because they did a lot of cool shit on the show.
Right on. Okay,
and
cool.
This is the last time we hear them. Again, I won't dwell. But so yeah, Art is back, and he's in a tie, and he's shaved, and he's not happy about that.
I love I like the imagery, even though it's really... You kind of got the impression that he was cool with coming back because he was visiting and getting his nose and stuff a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
That there's something about the petulant nature where you just expect picture him on a beach somewhere with a cocktail and his grown out beard, and somebody like dragged him into a room and got a electric razor out, and he's like, but no, why? And they're like, sorry, we got to do this.
See, for me, I was thinking of back when I was in my 20s, and we had a local video store where my brother worked and 3 of my best friends worked. And so pretty much I would work 8 hours, and then I would go and hang out at the video store probably 6 days a week.
Okay.
And eventually they'd shut it down, and then we would go hang out. But I was there, I may as well have worked there, to the point where the manager, asked me 3 separate times if I wanted a job there. And every single time I told him no, because it's fun to go to the video store when I feel like it.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as someone is telling me you need to go shave and put on a tie and go work at the video store, I'm done.
Smart of you to know that at such an early age.
I also was already working 2 jobs. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was totally happy to not be employed there, because then I just got to dick around all afternoon. I made sandwich runs for people. Everyone thought I worked there, but nope, I'm good.
Yeah, that's something that I think whenever anybody's like, well, what would you do if you didn't have to worry about money? And I'm always like, I understand the impulse to like use that as your jumping off point for figuring out what you want to do with your life. But if you put that to the test, a lot of the time it's going to just making that your job is going to ruin the thing you love for you. And I have had that happen. I think maybe that's the test, is take these things that you think you love, turn them into a job, and do you still love them? And if the answer is yes, then that's the thing. But in the meantime, you're going to hate several hobbies that you now love, probably forever.
Yeah. There was a guy at that video store, actually. His name was John. He was an older guy, probably in his mid-50s. He had like a military kind of bearing to him. And at one point, my friend said, like, what are you, because we're all in our early mid-20s, said, what are you doing here? And he said, honestly, I worked already for 25 years. I made some money. I've always wanted to work in an independent video store. So that's just what I'm going to do now. And probably about 3 years after, he wound up passing away from cancer, which made me wonder if he was sick already.
Yeah.
But he just kind of decided, you know what, I made some money, so I'm just going to do something that I think sounds like fun and doesn't involve too much responsibility.
Right on.
Not a bad way to be.
No, definitely not. I think that's probably as good as we can ask for, a lot of us.
Right? Yeah, but so Art is back and not of his own free will. So he's not thrilled about that.
Yeah.
And then we leave the Marshall station and go to the hospital, where we see that Boyd he is alive and he is recuperating, because he is basically a medical miracle.
Yeah, which, I guess fine. I knew he wasn't going to be dead, but like, it is awfully convenient that, it's just uncanny that you're still alive. Yeah, sure.
One lucky sumbitch.
Mm-hmm.
I believe is the medical terminology.
Too many goddamn times. Been shot point blank in the chest twice now. Come on.
Right? Raylan shows up to talk to him, and we learn that Raylan left Boyd handcuffed to a bumper after he called 911.
Oh my God. Is that the best thing you ever heard or what?
It's perfect. It's perfect. And Raylan did go after Ava. Like he said, he found the truck abandoned. No sign of her.
Mm-hmm.
And Raylan says to him, it had to suck to be so close with that $10 million and then just have it shot out of your hand.
Yeah, he's got to fuck with him. Come on.
He does. And Boyd first says that you have no idea how I feel. And then he says, is that kind of like how you feel because you're not the one who got to shoot me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was drinking water when you got to that line, and I forgot about that line.
Yeah.
And Raylan just barely manages to be like, exactly. Oh, see, you get it.
Yeah. And then Boyd floats the idea of exactly what you wanted, which was a team up with Raylan. And Raylan totally shoots him down.
Yeah, I do not blame him. Like, I wanted a team up, when Boyd wasn't going to completely fuck shit up and probably kill Ava, but now I'm taking that back.
Okay. Yeah, Raylan shoots him down, and he wants information. And he asks Boyd how long he actually thinks Ava's going to last out there with Avery Markham after her. Mm-hmm. And does he think that what they are going to do to her is really what she deserves?
Yeah. Boyd's just like, probably. He doesn't actually say that, but it's on his face.
No, he says to her, "Well, maybe that's what she has coming."
Mm-hmm.
And then Raylan says, "Like, you really think that that's going to be justice?" And he weighs his options and says, Zachariah, if he's still alive, is going to be where she'll head.
Yeah.
So Raylan takes off. Oh, yeah?
Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Your microphone must have popped or something. Anyway, but yeah,
weird.
So Raylan...
Go ahead, sorry.
Raylan takes off. He reconvenes with Nelson and Tim. And I love Nelson. He goes, I didn't see that coming at all.
All right, show. Calm down. We get it. He's the audience. Yeah, that was pretty good, though.
And then Tim, Raylan asked if he knows about the mines. And Tim says, I've been to Mordor, but not through the mines. Raylan doesn't get it.
Raylan's just like, is that a yes or no? He's got no patience for it. I loved that line, though, so much. Like, later on when Owen came home, I said that line to him, and I was just delighted by it. And I love that callback to his love of fantasy literature from like 3 seasons ago. Mm-hmm. Yep, he's a darling. Love you, Tim.
He is.
I'm jumping ahead, but it's in the I Love Tim vein. You gonna cut me in on the $10 million later? Oh, I fucking love him so much.
So we really briefly then cut back to Ava, who is not in this episode very much, despite being the focus of the entire thing. Mm-hmm. But it's her and Zachariah. She is there, and they are on a mountain, dragging the money behind them on like a sled.
Like, just bury that money somewhere.
Right?
I just don't see, like, it feels more dangerous to me to bring it with you wherever you go, because that's the first place it's going to get searched if you ever get caught. Put it somewhere they will literally never find it. And then if you're able to get out of it, you can at least go find it. And if you aren't able to get out of it, you can tell someone else where it is and they can make use of it if it's somebody that you love and want to have it. I just think these things through a little bit more than Ava does, I guess.
I think in most cases that is true. Yeah. Yeah. Most parts of Ava's life could be improved if she had a gal pal like you, Natasha.
Except I would have just like from the start been like, Boyd, what are you doing? No.
You don't understand. I can change him.
Oh God.
He's different when the doors are closed.
I can change him with a bullet. Pow.
Yeah, right?
She did.
Took her 5 seasons. 6 seasons. But they, Ava and Zachariah have their own plans. They're headed to this supply station they set up for trapped miners. Mm-hmm. And they drag the money inside. And they've got heat, and they've got a radio, and Zachariah thinks he can get an ATV running. They'll be gone by morning. Mm-hmm. Ava says they're going to go to a guy named Groobs. But she's a little concerned because Boyd is going to warn the marshals since he knows Groobs. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Boyd knows who Groobs is also. And Zachariah tells her, well, look, either the marshals have him, and he wouldn't cooperate, or he's dead, in which case it doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she is, like, I think aware of his supernatural ability to come back from things. So she's just like, hey, you know what? I shot him dead in the chest. He's probably fine.
That is kind of a weird assumption for her to make.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Oh, well. I also think that, while she knew what she was doing, I think she's still processing it a lot.
Oh, so yeah, definitely.
The idea that Boyd isn't a factor
mm-hmm.
probably isn't like present in her mind, I think, right now.
And it's probably just smarter to assume that he lived.
That's
just
true
to
too.
be safe.
Yeah.
Just play like he's still alive, and what's the worst case scenario?
It's true. It's true. So that brings us to our opening credits. Mm-hmm. And when we come back, we are in Catherine's hotel room. Mm-hmm. And she is on the phone with Mikey, and she is on her way to meet him. Except Avery is waiting in her room.
Fucking Duffy in the background. That Catherine? Let me talk to her, Mikey. Oh my God. Duffy. Stop it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Avery's just chilling there, and the exact thing that I said is what happens. I was so right. They're basically like, we got all of our shit out, so I guess now we're about on as even footing as we could hope for, really, to start out our new relationship.
So yeah, they're surprisingly, I don't know, I was going to say cool with each other, but that's not quite right.
No, not really.
But they are, they're willing to go forward with this. And she claims at least that at first she was with him just because he was a mark and that he was a good lay. But their feelings have changed. I don't really know that I buy her totally there. But
agreed. Yeah. I think that, I think it... Okay, so I don't think that she is probably, as far as she thinks, completely lying, but I think she's retconning a little bit.
Okay.
That she's thinking about how she would have felt if she had really known that it was not him. And, like, she had been having inklings of feeling that way, but didn't let herself feel that way. Because she kept reminding herself, no, he's the one. Don't do this. He's the one who did this to you. And so now she's just sort of recontextualizing things and presenting it to him as if the new version of it is what actually happened. Which, it's a lie, but I think it's probably as close to the truth as she, like, knows how to honestly tell him, in a way. Do you get what I mean?
I do. I can get behind that. Absolutely.
And he has his fucking hand on her throat the whole time that she's saying this. I didn't know what to expect. I was really like, is he gonna fucking... And he doesn't. And I was like, thank God, because her attitude with just being, like, so cavalier about his hand at her throat would really have bothered me if that turned out to be an attack, Right. Like, I would have been like, come on, she just sat there and let him do that. So I'm really glad that wasn't actually the direction that it went, because that would have been super frustrating to me.
Yeah. So do you think that he was, do you think he would have done violence to her? Or do you think that was just a ploy to get her to be as truthful as possible?
I honestly can't say. I don't feel like I have a really great read on Avery and, like, his reaction to things so far, because he surprised me a couple times. Like, I kind of thought... I think I low-key expected him to care more about his money than her. So the fact that he caved and brought the money to Boyd when she was taken hostage surprised me. I didn't expect him to do that. The fact that he didn't just, like, lay into her right there, apparently, because she's in her hotel room later. Like, the way that he has handled everything has been surprising. And I guess I think that it feels that the show is telling me he really loves her, and that really is motivating him and motivating a lot of what he does. And so that can really go either way in the heat of the moment of finding out that the person that you love and that you've based everything on has betrayed you. It can either be you love them so much and it hurts so much that you just have to fucking walk away and cut them out of your life, or your temper gets the better of you. And he doesn't really seem like a temper kind of guy. He's so cold. Yeah. But
so you do think there's a parallel universe somewhere where this went very badly?
I think, but I wouldn't. I almost feel like if he were going to take revenge on her and hurt her, I don't think he could do it. I think he'd have to ask his little psycho buddy there to do it for him.
And he would be only too happy to.
Oh, yeah.
If I had to assume.
Ugh, he'd probably have a boner the whole time.
I have no doubt he'd have a boner the whole time. So, yeah, they patch things up somewhat. And he says that he's going to go after the $10 million that belongs to both of them. He makes a point of saying. And he's going to make sure that Boyd doesn't breathe another day. And she's going to go do the same to Duffy. But he does offer to, well, I will bring you Duffy's head as a wedding present. But no, she's got to go do this herself.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and when he says that, she's like, ooh, what's up? I just love her. She's so funny.
Speaking of Duffy, we go back to the RV, and Duffy is still handcuffed, still waiting, and he's trying to bargain with Mikey, who is listening to classical music, which is a thing that we would know if Duffy ever let him pick the music.
Oh, I love that detail.
Yeah. And despite all of Duffy's offers of, I'll drive sometimes, and there, no dice.
Nope.
Mikey says, end of the day, Duffy's as close to family as he's ever had, but he's a rat, and rats get exterminated.
And like he said it in this tone of voice where I was like, yeah, that's not happening. I just could tell from the very sadness in that sentence that he was carrying out the action leading up to the thing, but I didn't think the thing was something he could get behind. And you know, he's acting like, to bring it back to, it's like catching dad fucking the neighbor lady. It's what Duffy is doing is totally the guilty dad, like, handbook, right? Oh, I'll let you pick the music sometimes. Do you want to go get some ice cream? I got some tickets to the game. Do you want to go with me to the game, son? Like, all of this way too fucking late, way too little, and delivered in this plaintive, like, will that make you happy sort of voice. It's just like insulting, and it's so transparent, and it's just adding insult to injury, really. And
that's a really good comparison. I like that a lot.
And it bums me out because the very fact that he's taking that tone and treating him like this is an indicator that despite everything, he's still not taking Mikey seriously.
Yes.
The guy has you fucking chained to, like, what more of a position of power would he have to occupy in order for you to treat him like an adult? And I think probably more than anything, that's what makes him get up and deck Duffy in the face. Is like, you know, I'm doing this thing to uphold what I believe. I have you by the balls, and you're still being a shit. Like, that is really insulting. So yeah, Mikey, I'm sorry, buddy.
Yeah, and we do also learn that he hates being called Mikey.
Yes, which I want to know what he'd prefer to be called. He doesn't say.
Mike Cosmetopoulos? Yeah,
I guess just Mike.
Mm. We then get a very a brief scene of Loretta, who is, I don't know if she's leaving school. She's got a backpack, but she's walking through a parking lot to her car, and Boone is waiting in the back seat.
What else is new?
Right? He's already taken the gun. Yeah, she's got a gun in her center console, and that's already gone. And he talks about his childhood, and the two of them, the camera keeps cutting to the rear view mirror where they're both looking each other in the eyes while both looking forward, which I totally love.
Yeah, she's not turning around, at least not initially. She finally does, but yeah.
But he, her expression the whole time is really painful. And then he talks about marriage laws a little bit, which is weird and kind of creepy, but he winds up turning it into they want her to join up with Avery. So they can be business partners. He can tuck in with Markham. She can tuck in with Markham because he's got more money than she could ever imagine.
Yeah, and I'm like, again, y'all keep thinking that just throwing money at the problem is going to fix it. Which, right? I guess, even if you don't really think it's going to work, if that's your only play, then I guess what else are you going to do? And it does feel like that's his only play.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's not down for it. And he tells her that she has a fire in her belly and not to let it burn her brain.
Yeah, until you've got no reason. And I was like, well, you know, you are awful, but that is sound advice, though.
Yeah. Don't you hate when you have to compliment him?
Right. Yeah, Alan and I were talking earlier about me, becoming an adult and learning that my rage needs to be funneled somewhere productive and quelled a little bit before I can be a professional about things.
Yeah.
Professionals.
Ridiculous. So, we leave that scene and we don't come back to it. It just kind of gets put out there.
Yeah.
And that's it, Loretta, for the episode.
There was something about that scene that made me feel like he was coming to her on his own behalf. Do you know what I mean? Like, that Avery hadn't told him, hey, go talk to Loretta. That he, really does like Loretta in his fucking twisted, awful, possessive way. And is hoping that he can persuade her on his own so that he doesn't have to do this thing that he doesn't want to do. And not because he's, so emotionally attached to her, but purely because it would be better if he didn't have to. It's a very simple thing for him, I think. It's just it'd be cool if I didn't have to kill her. I'd really rather not. So I'll try and get that to happen, Huh.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. I could see him wanting to go and talk to Loretta because he just decided he wants to fuck with Loretta a little.
Right.
I don't know that I would see him as somebody who is trying to solve Markham's problems for him. He was saying last episode, look, whatever you tell me to do is what I'm going to do. And I'm not going to argue it. You're paying me.
Well, see, but that's I don't even feel like it's him trying to solve Markham's problem. It's trying to solve his own problem.
Okay. I don't know.
He doesn't really want to hurt her because he likes her.
See, and I guess if I'm seeing him as a psychopath, I don't know that he likes anything well enough to...
Well, that's what I mean. Is it's not an emotional oh, I care about her. It's she's a favorite toy of mine, and I would rather not break this toy. It's a possessive sort of don't ruin my fun.
All right.
Do you know what I mean?
All right. Yeah, all right. I can see that. I don't know that I buy it, but I can see it. Okay.
But yeah, he's so creepy.
He really is.
I won't talk about it like I did last time because I said plenty already. But yeah, he's just really good at this.
Yeah. So we go briefly to Raylan, and he's at the mines with Tim and Detective Willits. And they talk about whether or not Ava would have gone into the mine on her own. And but then Raylan spots cabin.
Yeah. He ain't no dummy.
Ain't no dummy.
And it's snowed since they went up there because there wasn't snow there before, right?
No, there's not. And Zachariah mentions at one point how cold it is outside.
Okay.
So, yeah, it is wintertime in Kentucky. We will go back to Raylan shortly, but first we have Earl and Carl in a jail cell. And I love that they're just talking to random extras.
Yeah, I was like, am I supposed to know who this fucking guy is? Because this dude is talking to them like he knows them, you know? And I guess it's just if you're alone in a cell with somebody, you tell them shit, I guess. But it did feel a little weird.
He's a personable guy. He could talk to anyone.
He is enormous.
I thought for a second it was Kevin Nash, the professional wrestler. Oh, okay. It's not. But he's got that build of just holy crap.
I mean, he's got to be at least 6'6".
Yes.
Big guy. Damn.
Yes. And, but they're talking about what happened in the heist and how this could have possibly happened. Someone narked them out. Carl is sure of it. He thinks it was Catherine.
Which is a logical assumption to make initially. Yep.
Totally. But they get interrupted before they can go too much further because the other prisoners are let out of the cell and a guard comes in to introduce Avery and Boone as their visitors.
OMG, this was so funny. This ain't legal. Yeah, no shit. Sweet summer child.
And Boone has a hat.
I forgot. This is the thing, once Raylan points it out, I'm like, oh, right. But I just kind of assumed, people wear different clothes on different days. But I appreciated that Raylan's oh, so, did you take that guy's hat?
Yep.
He's keeping tabs on this dude. Yeah.
Sure is.
Friggin' hat. He's in his own movie.
Right?
You know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 1,000%. I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day about the word solipsism.
What is that?
That is essentially the belief that the knowledge that you are real, but everything else is kind of up for grabs. You're only sure that you're real.
Okay.
And which is there was a chapter of It that was like that. That was like the kid Patrick something or another who like smothered his brother in his crib. And
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he had that sort of that solipsistic thing of like, I know I'm real. The rest of you could be the Truman Show. It could be the Matrix, or you could all just be like shadow puppets. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about that. Where the fuck was I going with this?
Him in his hat and being in his own movie.
Yeah, being in his own movie. Yes. So, yeah.
That was funny. You just like went down this little rabbit hole, and then you're like, wait, hold on.
Hey, half my life, I swear to God.
Funny.
But yeah, no, Boone is absolutely in his own movie. No question. No question.
I would watch that movie.
I would watch a few episodes of that TV show, and then we'll see.
All right, fair.
Of course, then that TV show might be Hannibal. That wouldn't shock me in the least.
Yeah, right. True.
I'd be okay with that. So, but yeah, they are there to visit because Avery says he knows that they were just pawns in all this. Mm-hmm. And he fills them in on Boyd's betrayal, which they don't necessarily buy, but actually basically turns out to be true. And then Avery offers Carl a job, and it's just Carl.
Yeah.
That he's got to go kill Boyd.
Now you say like they don't necessarily buy, but I felt like in that instant Carl knew. Like, his brother's like, Boyd wouldn't do that, but Carl doesn't say anything.
That's true.
And I really felt like he didn't want to say to his brother, yeah, he fucking would, because he wants to get this dealt with before his brother has to know any of this, and preferably I won't have to tell him at all. Mm-hmm. But I definitely think in that moment when Avery said he set you up, there's a flash in Carl's eyes, like he had a gut instinct that this fucking guy is telling me the truth. Oh my God. Like, just, there's those moments when you're talking to people who, even though you don't like them, you can tell what they're saying is correct. And mm-hmm. it's a simultaneous, oftentimes because they're telling you something that you don't want to know, that you resent that they just told you this. You resent that you're hearing it from somebody you fucking hate. But you have to face the fact that what they're saying makes sense and feels true. And I felt for Carl in that little instant, and the fact that he's protective of his brother about it and doesn't say anything to him and just doesn't even deny it to Avery either. It doesn't say there's no way. He just moves right on businesslike from, all right, so I'm assuming that is true. What do you want? He's a smart guy. I feel really bad that things wind up the way that they do. Reminder, Boyd's the bad guy, but it's so easy to forget.
Yeah, I think you're right. And watching it as we're talking about that, I think you can really see that on Carmel's face too, mm-hmm. because the expression at a certain point does just harden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he had just been saying no honor among thieves. So
yeah, right. Exactly. So
he got his own shit
halfway
proven,
there
right?
himself.
Yep.
Yeah. And so he's got this offer. Go find Boyd, find out where my money is, and then kill him. And if he doesn't know where my money is, kill him anyway. Mm-hmm. And if he fails or runs off, then Earl is going to die. Because Boone is just dying to shoot somebody.
I mean, you got to feed the dog.
Right?
You can't employ somebody like that and not let him kill people. It's just going to be bad for somebody at the end.
It's true. It's only so many squirrels in Kentucky. I'm just assuming that's what's happening off camera because he's so crazy.
You're being very generous. I was assuming that it was dogs or something.
It's also possible. Yeah. So, back in the woods, Raylan and Tim and some other officers creep up on the rescue station where we just saw Ava and Zachariah, and it is empty. Mm-hmm. But they can pretty quickly figure out, at least Raylan and Tim can, that somebody was here.
Yeah.
It's side. There's scuff marks on the floor where something was dragged. And Raylan knows that they can't be far, and they can't be moving that fast.
Yeah. Because $10 million is heavy.
And they're going to get dogs, and they're going to get choppers. And there's a seat on the chopper for Raylan, and he is so excited.
Oh my God, this guy, the way that he like tells Raylan, it feels like, listen, I know that we're adults, but this is really fucking cool. And I'm about to give you this really cool present. And I know that we have to be grown-ups about it, but like, don't you just kind of want to go like, oh my God? There's just like this real suppressed glee about it. I just loved it so much. And Raylan, you know, like he acts as cool as Raylan does, but you could see that a little part of him is like, oh, I get to ride the chopper, yes. Like, it's pretty great. Reminded me a little bit of, what's his face on Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Still never seen it.
Jake Peralta. You gotta watch the fucking show, dude, seriously.
I know.
And it just came back for its 4th season, and it is super fun. Actually, it might be 5th now. I think it's 4th.
I'm working my way through Steven Universe right now. Once I'm done with that, then I will move on to Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
We'll always save the day. It's
fun too. Yeah. So, at the Marshall station, this is where Vasquez makes he completes his heel turn here.
Oh, shit.
And, he lays it down with no pretense that, like, Art and Rachel have screwed this up. This is career-ending for all of them, and you guys are too blind to see it, but Raylan and Ava have been in this together. This guy and his girlfriend just stole $10 million from under our noses.
Okay, so here, listen. Vasquez is being an asshole. Later on, he suggests Art is in on it also, which
I know.
Is, like, unforgivable, but also I feel like something that he just threw out there a little bit to just be like, fuck you.
Oh, yeah.
However, I would think exactly what he's thinking.
Okay.
I would 100, not the Art thing, but I would 100% think that Raylan had orchestrated this whole thing.
And when Raylan finds out later, that's his reaction too. Like, he's just waiting for somebody to bring it up.
Because his history, everything that Vasquez says is true. He was banging Ava at one point. Oh, Boyd got shot by Ava. Bullshit. Raylan shot him. Like, oh, and he just let Ava walk away when he shoots everything that moves. Like, no. And she just happened to just walk away with the money and he didn't do anything. No. Like, the trail that Raylan has left behind him, the fact that they already got an investigation ruined by his relationship with her once. Mm-hmm. Vasquez has ironclad, circumstantial, sure, but still ironclad circumstantial evidence that if you put that in an article in the news, I would read that shit and be like, this motherfucker, come on. The only reason that I might not think this, if I was Rachel or Art, is because it's so obvious and Raylan's smarter than that. That's the only reason why I would maybe think this wasn't actually the case. Because otherwise, it does look, and to me, you know, Vasquez is like, oh, he's probably cutting in with Ava. And I'm like, well, then why would he come to work? Like, that's the kind of shit that I don't understand when people are like, oh, he's probably in on it. He would have bailed. There's a thing like this in Twin Peaks at one point where somebody accuses this casino manager of like being in on it with this guy who got a bunch of jackpots. And it's like, why would the casino fucking manager who made hundreds of thousands of dollars come back to his bullshit job the next day then? Like, he would have to assume that you would accuse him, right? So just bail. And he had the time. So that kind of thing doesn't line up. But yeah, Vasquez is just so insufferable here that despite him being very logical about this whole thing, and I understand it because what he feels like is that this is so fucking obvious and you two just like him. And that's all it is that you just like him. And so you don't want to think that he did this bad thing. Get over it and be fucking adults and look at what's in front of you. So but he's just so shitty about it. He's just so awful. I hate him so much. I'm just like, I can't even And there's something like really strident about his voice in this too, and the way he like shows his molars when he's like yelling at them. There's just there's something about the whole way he does this that when Art's staring at him like he wants to literally crush his skull between his hands, I'm like, yeah, I feel you, Art. Go ahead, do it.
You know, you watched Battlestar Galactica, right? The reboot from 10 years ago? 15 years ago, Jesus. I was getting images in my head of the episode where they learn that there's a Cylon, and they get one of the officers to start conducting an investigation as to who might be a Cylon and who knows what. And it gets way out of hand. It becomes a witch hunt, and she winds up questioning Commander Adama. And then there's just a point where there's no explosion, but his face just changes, and he just gets up and goes, "We are done here. This is over." And I felt that in Art's face, where he just hit a point where he just said, like, "This is fucking stupid."
Right.
And I can't get that little bit out of my head with that. But yeah, Vasquez went from a pretty cool guy to like public enemy number one, unfortunately. But you're right. Everything he says, it makes sense. It's just wrong.
Yep.
So directly after this, Raylan takes a call from Art, and Raylan is gearing up to get on the helicopter. It's coming towards him right now. And Art says, "No, you need to come back here." And Raylan acts super bummed out, like a, annoyed teenager. And Art fills him in, and Raylan can almost complete his sentences for him because he's just been waiting for this shoe to drop.
Yeah. Yeah, he's just like, let me guess. And it looks like he's going to turn around and go back for a second. He doesn't get in the chopper, at least.
That's true. He does end like just one pass on the helicopter. And Art says, "No, get your ass back to Lexington right now." And you just hear him drive away cursing.
Yeah.
Makes me happy.
That's fair.
Raylan slightly unhappy makes me happy.
Honestly, I feel like Raylan is... How I feel about Raylan is how people say you can tell a good compromise that nobody's happy. So Raylan being a little bit irritated makes me feel like things are going the way they need to go. I think we're on track,
I like that. And then we cut, again, very briefly to Ava and Zachariah. They're in the woods hiding from the chopper. But that's really all it is.
Yep.
It's just they're out there, and Raylan's right. They're not far. At the hospital, a shady cop comes in, and he relieves Nelson and tells him that there's a Raylan Gibbons outside who wants to talk to you. And Nelson thinks just for a second he's going to get to be part of the plot. So he goes outside. And this guy lets Carl in the back door. And they go to Boyd's room, and he says, "All right, just make it look good." And so Carl pistol whips him into unconsciousness.
Yeah, that was unexpected. Like, it wasn't, I won't say it was unexpected because I figured that Carl was, but I didn't think that I thought that, I'm talking like way too many directions at once. I thought Boyd would convince him to do this part. And because I was going to say, I thought that Boyd would convince Carl to team up with him again. But that is what happens. But what I really thought was that Carl was going to act like he was carrying out orders. And then Boyd would convince him in a way to like turn. And instead, Carl walks in there not intending to carry out orders at all. But also not intending to just join right back up with Boyd either. I think he wanted to and was hoping that that Boyd would be able to convince him because he wants to believe that this guy didn't completely fuck him over. But I think he went into it like more open-minded than he acts like he was holding Boyd at gunpoint,
Yeah. I love when Carl's like, he backhands the guy with his pistol. The guy just falls. And Boyd, almost like he's waking up, was like, "Carl?" And then he bends over him and starts going at him with the butt of the pistol. And they just cut back to Boyd with this horrified expression on his face. Like,
yeah.
"Carl?
Oh my God.
Jesus.
I love it so much.
And then he comes and he points the gun and goes, "Why are you pointing a gun at me? I'm infirm."
Oh, God.
And Carl, like you said, almost follows through, or maybe he would have followed through, and Boyd is able to convince him, like, no. Mm-hmm. You and me, we're going to get him out. We'll get the money. We're going to get Earl. We can change our luck. I care about you and Earl. $5 million each. Let's do it. And we cut very briefly outside to Nelson, who realizes that he's been duped.
Yeah, how about that?
Oops. And when we cut back, Boyd is already in the guard's uniform.
Yeah, this was the thing where I was just like, oh, shit. It didn't... Yeah. I still was surprised. But there was like something in my gut like knew before my brain knew.
Okay.
So there wasn't really like a good reason at seeing him in the uniform for me to immediately be like, oh, this means that he's going to betray Carl, because that logic doesn't really like follow. But still, something in my gut was like, oh no.
It's
like
kind of the lead up to the Red Wedding of something is going to go really, really wrong.
I think it was that him being in this guard's uniform means that he doesn't need Carl. I think was what it was, right. You know, like, and the instant I saw that, I'm like, oh, he can just walk out now. He doesn't fucking need it. And that was like, yeah, he realized that too.
He sure did. Yeah. So he's got the uniform on, and Carl says, now we have to figure out how we're going to get you out. He says, it'll be easy with all the chaos. He goes, what chaos? Bang.
At least it feels like Carl died before he like hit the floor. He seemed like he was out. I just felt so fucking bad for the guy. Like, he really wanted to believe in Boyd. He didn't have anything else. It's him and his brother. And he's believing in Boyd, really, I think, because he wants to do something, like he wants to make things better for his brother. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's actually that's a nice little bit of character development for him, because he's always been a strong character, but he's always been a pretty one-dimensional character.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like that. I do like that they give him just enough dimension for you to really actually care when he dies.
And like, I've been saying that I like Carl. Like, he kept on proving that he was just, you know, he was smart enough. He would say some stupid shit sometimes, get a little hot-headed, but it was always because he was taking his job seriously. It was not like he was like letting his ego get in the way most of the time. So I felt like, here's somebody that's actually dependable and that you can mostly trust to make a smart decision in the heat of the moment if things don't go exactly to plan. And that's a fucking rare thing. And I understand that at this point, Boyd is basically all bets are off now. But I do feel like it took him so long to find somebody like Carl.
I know, right? We've been talking for 5 seasons. 5 seasons about what Boyd could accomplish if he had some competent henchmen.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's massive confusion. Boyd heads one way. Nelson's coming from the other way. Everyone's in panic.
Dogs and cats living together.
Exactly. And then we go to Raylan and Tim, and they're in the aftermath of all this. And this is where, Raylan has readjusted his priorities, and Tim is almost like he's trying to nudge him back into the office, but with like, it's almost perfunctory. He's like, really, you're going to go after Boyd because you should be going back to the office.
It feels like he's like got a wire on him. And they told him, try and get him to come back to the office. And he like tried to argue and was like, you know he's not coming back. And they're like, you have to try. Oh, wow. Looks like you should really head back. What do you think? No, really. You should do that. No? All right, well, I tried. You guys heard me. I tried.
And this is the if I help you out, are you going to cut me in on that $10 million?
The look, Raylan.
The look. Just the withering look.
Oh, I love it. So, these two, I wish they worked together more on this show.
I know.
Like, I understand why Raylan functions solo most of the time. But he's just like the two of them. Tim is just... He's smart enough to understand why Raylan operates the way that he does most of the time. But he's also smart enough to be like, I'm not good enough at my job to get away with the shit you get away with. So I'm not going to put myself out there like that. I'm going to cover my ass. Just has a little bit more caution. Which almost, I wonder, is that not the thing that undercuts him possibly being able to get away with what Raylan does? If he just had the fucking, like, entitlement and bravado that Raylan does that seems to convince everyone else in the room that he also deserves to get away with shit, maybe he can pull it off.
Confidence counts for a lot.
It does.
It really, really does. You just go like, yeah, I'm doing this. Why? What do you mean? Yes, of course. Why aren't you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And then not, people go like... Yeah, I mean, you're right.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. But you only think of that, 10 minutes later. You have that dream of the stairwell, the thing you should have said 5 minutes ago.
Wait, the stairwell? What are you talking? What?
It's a French word, and I don't know. It's like le spirit d'escalier or something. I don't speak French at all. It's a term that means dream of the stairwell. It's all right. You remember the Jerk Store episode of Seinfeld?
The Jerk Store?
All right, no, never mind.
Oh, here it is.
Right.
I've had it. A French term used in English for the predicament of thinking of the perfect reply too late.
Yes.
From the French encyclopedist and philosopher Denis Diderot's description of such a situation in his Paradoxe sur le comédien. During a dinner at the home of statesman Jacques Necker, a remark was made to Diderot which left him speechless at the time because he explains a sensitive man such as myself, overwhelmed by the argument leveled against him, becomes confused and can only think clearly again when he finds himself at the bottom of the stairs. In this case, the bottom of the stairs refers to the architecture of the kind of hotel particulier or mansion to which Diderot had been invited. In such houses, the reception rooms were one floor above the ground floor. To have reached the bottom of the stairs means to have definitively left the gathering. So basically, it's shorthand for I didn't know what to say until I left.
Yes.
Which, okay, cool.
Yeah, there's an episode of Seinfeld that's all about that, where George is eating tons of shrimp, and somebody says that there's going to be the ocean's going to they call it the shrimp store, and they're all out because of you. And George comes up with a reply afterwards about, well, I called the jerk store, and they're all out of you.
Oh,
so he spends
right.
the rest of the episode trying to get himself back in the exact same situation, so he'll be able to say it to the guy's face. Yeah.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
George needs a hobby. I guess being petty is his hobby.
Well, one of my favorite things about Seinfeld was that people spent 9 years talking about how it's just like me and my friends. And then in the last episode, they all went to jail for being terrible people.
Right. Yeah, maybe look at that, guys,
Right. So anyway, yeah, that's that thing of somebody bluffs their way through life, and then 5 minutes later you go, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Raylan. So anyway, we then go to Avery at the bar, or the Pizza Palace, and we get just a real quick setup scene where he finds out from Boone that Carl's dead, Boyd's on the loose. And Avery tells Boone that, okay, let's go get Earl. And he's a little unclear as to whether Earl's going to be released or shot dead in his cell, but...
I think it's clear because he says a deal's a deal.
He does.
So I think, that was the deal. I think it's pretty clear.
Okay.
Just whether or not his brother's alive to know that his brother was shot to death. Other people were there and heard what he said. So
that's true.
He has to follow through,
That's true. So it turns out that doesn't come to pass, though, because we then go to the jail where Raylan basically rescues Earl from dirty cops.
Can we talk about how fucking hot Raylan is in this scene? I swear to God, it's a combination of things happening here. One, the absolute authority with which he's like, this is what is going to happen. Two, it is how he reads the fuck out of this guy.
Oh, yeah.
It is gorgeous. This is masterful. Just his, that look that you are going to give me of it doesn't bother me too much running into a cop from this town that's bent to shit. I grew up around here. Kind of expect it now and then. What irritates me is when you call them on it and they give you this look like, how dare you insinuate I'm a piece of shit tarnishing my badge. And that guy is giving him that exact look as he's saying it, and it's so great. Oh my God. And
I love these two actors because they're just a little doughy, the real dark expressions. They're kind of sallow and kind of yellow in the light. They're the perfect look of, there's something really just dirty and shitty about these guys without being over in any way at all.
Yeah, it's like, there's a little bit of corruption physically happening.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then him looking at him, I can see you doing the math. Should you tolerate the insult? And the look that when this guy starts to come at him, the eagerness on Raylan's face when he starts to talk, number one, I don't like your tone. Raylan gets this look. I'm screenshotting this. Well, you have it up, don't you?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
The look that when the camera goes to him right after, I don't like your tone, Raylan gets this smile. Hold on. I'm screenshotting it anyway. No, you have it, but I have to send you the exact moment that I'm talking about, because that is a look of a man who wants you to fuck up, and you are about to do it. You are playing directly into this man's hands, and he knows he is in the right, and he knows that you're about to do that shit, and he can't wait. Go ahead, say it.
That's a great screenshot,
right? I just this moment. I think I liked Raylan more in this moment than I have in the whole rest of the show, just because he's calling this guy out, and the way that he's doing it, and the fact that he's doing it in front of another cop, just the whole thing is just so ballsy and so confident, and he's so goddamn right about what's happening and has nailed it. It is, I love it so much. Raylan, you're so great sometimes. Why do you have to be like this?
It's a pretty fantastic scene from, this is Raylan at his best, because he does not have to draw his gun at all.
Right, exactly. Yep.
And he is just able to navigate through this scene. And poor Earl is on the sidelines of this, and about halfway through goes, wait, did you say my brother's dead?
Yeah, he has this when Raylan first says, well, his brother's dead, and the camera goes to him, and he just looks at the floor like he's putting, this sentence does not make sense. It took him a full minute to make sense of the words that he just heard. It's heartbreaking, honestly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then the way that his face shifts completely when he turns his attention away from that cop and back onto Earl, and says, Earl, step away from the dirty cop and come with me.
Oh my God.
And just that, the concern that goes on to his face, whether he's genuine about it in that moment or not, this is him. This is, like you said, this is Raylan at his best. This is good cop Raylan, 1,000%. Mm-hmm. And it's a great moment for him.
I think it's you know what it is? And this is what it is. Because we've seen Raylan go up against bad guys. We've seen him face off with bad guys with just verbal sparring, as well as fisticuffs and actual guns. But he's facing off against somebody who's almost on his level in terms of power.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is that whenever he's up against a criminal, it just feels like the differential there makes it so that any victory of his is tempered by the fact that he walked in there completely in a position of power in the first place. And not that he isn't in a position of power here too as a marshal versus just a neighborhood cop, but it's still much closer. And the fact that he's doing it when there's two in the room evens it up even a little more, And the fact that he's not mincing words at all and flat out saying, I know you're dirty and I know what you're doing. That he's not couching it in this kind of like diplomatic, like, gentlemen, I'm going to pretend that I don't see what's happening here, but you should probably hand him over and we're going to take off. Like, he's not going to pretend that he doesn't know what's happening. He's going to completely call them out. Yeah. All about this. And he also saves this kid's life. This poor fucking dumb kid who I don't like him. Don't get me wrong. But also, you know, he's such a kid. He feels like a child.
He's 22?
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, he's a shitbag, but he's not. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He is as innocent as anybody mixed up in this plot is. So then we go to the saddest scene, to Win Duffy's RV, where Catherine enters to talk to Mike. Mm-hmm. And she gets a full confession from Duffy. He lays out exactly what he did. And she talks about her loyalty to Grady, even though she was sleeping around on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she has the same attitude as, like, you know, any mobster in, like, The Sopranos does, where they can have a guma and fuck strippers and whatever, but you disrespect their wife. No.
Right.
It's to say she's got the same thing happening, and I really appreciate that the show has done that, has had her have the same double standard, really, as any dude, and has her be completely unapologetic about it. And nobody even really is condemning her for it. Like, basically, Win is just kind of trying to leverage that as being like, well, you should be thanking me. But he's not even being like, you shouldn't have been doing that, you slut. He's just kind of like, well, you know, whatever. You do you, but I thought this would kind of benefit you too. And I appreciate that show. That's kind of cool. Let her be just as corrupt as anybody. You know, us ladies want to be corrupt too. What's the big deal?
Right on. So let me ask you, now he is talking to her about this, and they kind of lay it all out on the table, and she talks about, this is her husband, you avenge your partner, even though you hate your partner, and this is, you know, these are the rules, and this is the way it goes, and this is clearly what starts to push Mikey over the edge. Mm-hmm. Do you think that this was calculated on Duffy's part to try to get her to say all this?
No.
No? Because he's been trying all episode, even if it was half-hearted right up until this moment, to get himself out of that chair and out of those handcuffs.
No. I think that Duffy's smart, but I don't think he's smart enough to predict that accurately how she would respond to him.
Okay.
And no. I like want to give him the credit, but I don't think so. I think that he was trying to talk his way out of it with her, and it just so happened that the very thing was what turned Mikey around, but I feel like it was an accident because he just doesn't understand Mikey on a fundamental level. So it would take him understanding this kid to really get him to, like, you know, psychologically mess with him.
Okay.
And I don't think he has that understanding, really. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And maybe that's what it is I want to give him that credit also. But that also makes it less poignant for Mike if this has been what Duffy was trying to make happen. Mm-hmm. So, okay. But yeah, Mike is listening in on all this intently, and finally she just advances on him to to kill him, rather, pulls out her pistol, and Mike gets in the way, and he tries to talk her out of it, but doesn't get very far before she just shoots him point blank in the chest.
He is like the fucking Hulk.
Yes. Yeah. Being the linebacker that he is, he takes it and fights back. He gets shot 5 times, maybe?
Oh, God. I couldn't believe it. He just keeps on getting shot. She shoots him what, like, is it 5 times?
I think it's 5 times.
Oh,
maybe even 6. It's at least 5. And yeah, and there's probably 3 times in there where you think that that's it. He clearly must be dead now.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he's like the Hulk. He keeps getting stronger. He's shot 3 times before he lifts her over his head and throws her onto the table.
Mm-hmm. Which,
you know,
like,
I mean,
is like simultaneously like awful imagery because she's this tiny woman, but he's been shot so many times that it completely like kind of negates how problematic I would feel that look was. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, anytime you have a huge dude beating up a tiny woman, you got to be so careful about how that looks and the whole vibe of it. And them having her shoot him a bunch of times is really the best thing that they could have done in terms of me feeling like, okay, you know what? And also, of course, the circumstances are very specific with him defending this guy that he has worked for 15 years or however long, 12 years.
Right.
Yeah. Oh God. This whole scene.
And like I said,
throat punches her and it's fucking horrifying.
Yeah, he crushes her windpipe with his bare hands.
It is like I was surprised that she died here. Like, I figured she'd be pretty badly injured, but, you know, she slides off the table and is staring sightlessly at Duffy. And I was oh, okay, that's over already. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And poor Mikey.
I know.
First thing he does is get Duffy the key. Like, I wanted to cry.
And then he just, and having done that, he just finally can just fall over. And he's still alive after all that. Again, you see him. Yep. Listen, there's one shot where he's choking her. She shoots him what looks like almost like it's in the head, and blood just covers the ceiling. Yep. But he's still alive.
Yep.
And but then finally once he's down there, all he said, "Will you hold me?"
Oh my God, that moment. Will you hold me? I teared up so bad both times. I swear to God, that line could be so corny if it was somebody else. But he delivers it, and their relationship is like so solidly built.
Yeah.
That it's just so painful. Oh my God. And poor Duffy is like, looks like he's going to fucking throw up.
I know.
This scene was so much. They're side characters. How did they make me feel this way?
Well, you know, it wasn't even 20 minutes ago when Mikey finally, he just comes out and says point blank, "You were the closest thing I've ever had to a family."
Yep.
You know? And I mean, I think if he hadn't said that, I don't think it would have quite the punch that it does. But it's so brutal, and it's such a sacrifice that, it's intense. It's really, really intense. And again, poor Mikey, who probably has less than 50 lines in 6 seasons.
Right.
And, and then it ends with Duffy calling 911. They said, "What's your emergency?" And he says, "I don't even know where to start."
Oh, my God. I mean, and he looks at her ring and her bracelet. So I feel like that's foreshadowing that maybe he's going to call the cops here, but take her jewelry and bail. I don't know what kind of other vehicle Duffy has, so I'm not really sure like his ability to run. But if he were going to just run, it seems weird to call 911. So I'm not entirely like, you know, is he calling 911 to like lure them so that he can steal like, what's his face did? Ty? I don't think so. But there's something about the way the camera focuses on her jewelry that makes me think that he's like formulating a backup plan.
Yes,
so
definitely he's still thinking. He's in shock, and I almost feel like that's part of why he's calling 911. Is like, I've been in an accident, and this is what you do in an accident: is you call 911. And but no, clearly the wheels are still turning in his head, and we don't see him again this episode. But there's something happening. Even still. So we go to commercial and we come back to Raylan coming to see Avery at the Pizza Palace. Pizza Place? Pizza Plaza?
Pizza Portal.
It's a portal. Jesus, thank you. And he and Boone have this standoff that is about a hair's breadth away from becoming a gunfight.
Boone,
but it doesn't.
Is like, I swear to God, if he had dropped Raylan, he would have like fucked Raylan's corpse. Like, he is not kidding when he's talking about blue balls. That is not a metaphor. That is a thing that is literally happening in his pants at that moment. Good God. And I love that Avery's watching and just he finally is like, just let him pass, but he has to let it stretch out into an uncomfortably long time.
Yeah. And he does. Raylan acknowledges the hat, and we find out it's not the hat he got off the guy in the diner. That one smelled like patchouli and scared hipster. Which is, again, hate giving Boone credit for anything, but that's really funny.
That is really funny.
And then, like you said, Avery just says, all right, let him go. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, there's three things that happen at the pizza portal. That's thing one, is the near gunfight. Thing two is the reason Raylan's here is to deliver the message to Avery that he has Earl, and he is ready to sing to the marshals about everything that he knows. And then you get to the third thing, where Raylan realizes that Markham doesn't know what happened to Catherine yet.
Yeah.
And that he's got to tell him.
All right, first, before we get to that, when Raylan just smiles at Boone and says, just stay where I can see ya, and is laughing like, this guy's fucking crazy. And he says that, and then Avery starts laughing. I loved that weird little moment because they're both laughing at this guy who's crazy, and the camera turns to Boone, and Boone isn't smiling at all. He's just staring wide-eyed at Raylan like a lion who spotted a lame zebra in the distance. Like, it's just the whole dynamic here with these three is so weird. I really love it. And then Avery's over here. We're going to own this town, son. The place where you grew up, rode your bicycle. Really smug with his Grinch mouth.
Ever since you called him a Grinch, I cannot see anything else. Every time
I'm so happy because even Owen, he walks in and out when I'm watching this, and he's like, he does look like the Grinch. I said it to him once, and it got in his head too.
If I ever see Sam Elliott without a mustache again, that's just it. He's the Grinch now.
Yep. Those eyebrows, the whole look of him just works so well. But the shape of his lips really is crazy. It makes sense he got a mustache. He was like, nobody needs to see this.
He has no upper lip.
No, it's bizarre. It looks like he had one and somebody trimmed it weirdly because it's pointed in the middle.
Yeah.
It's so weird. So, yeah, then Raylan has to be like, well, your lady friend is dead. And his face goes from smug and knowing and superior to thundercloud.
Yeah, it goes slack for just a second. More than a second.
I'm not sure what to expect of him now.
Yeah.
That completely changes everything about who I have learned he is so far.
No money, no lady. Grady is untethered. Not Grady. I keep wanting to call him Grady. Avery is untethered.
Yeah, it's and the look that Raylan gets when he realizes Avery doesn't know, I think is the look of somebody who he doesn't want to be the person to give him this news because that's never really fun, but also he knows that, oh, the fact that you didn't know this explains why you're sitting here all relaxed and joking around, and now I have to tell you this, and that's going to set a whole other fire that I'm going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and he tells him, thing one, that she's dead, and then he gets puzzled. All this is on you.
Yep.
As you undertake your grieving, may that guide you as you contemplate your next move.
Yeah, that's kind of damning.
Yeah, I mean, not only does he have to tell him of this thing, but he gets to tell him, just as a reminder, your fault.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what he's saying is, you can lash out at other people if you want to, but you know that's not their fault.
Yeah, I get to tell you this now while your whole world is falling apart.
Yep.
Your fault. Yeah. So Raylan exits to the street, and Earl is in the car, slouching down because he doesn't want to be anywhere near this place.
Poor Earl.
Yeah. And we find out, though, he is not nearly as cooperative as Raylan made him out to be.
No. I love and hate, again, because of the differential of power, but I kind of love how people who are not experienced criminals are always so skittish, and Raylan just loves to, like, fuck with them.
Yeah.
You know, because they act like at any second, they act like it's a movie that somebody's constantly following and keeping an eye on whatever. And that's how I would be, 100%. But Raylan has done this long enough to know that, like, they're not going to do it here, dummy. And the whole, like, oh, let me just leave you in the car while I go sit here over on this bench alone. Like, he's such a dick about it.
Yeah, but Raylan eventually just lays out his options, which are, I can either give you back to the cops where you came from.
Which will assuredly not end well.
Mm-hmm. Or I can turn you into the Marshal Service, and we can talk. And, after a moment, he does give up that he heard only two things about the plan for afterwards. One was trucks of pig shit, and two was a guy named Groobs.
Yeah. And there's a look on Raylan's face when he says this, where Raylan almost looks like he's thinking, I should have fucking thought of this. Like, there's some ring of familiarity to this where, yeah, definitely, he knows this kid is telling the truth.
Right. And speaking of Groobs, we then go back to Ava and Zachariah, and they have made it to Groobs' cabin, but he isn't answering. Mm-hmm. So Zachariah kicks in the door, and then they smell something terrible. Mm-hmm. And it turns out Groobs is dead, and it looks like he has been that way for a while now.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
That's gross.
And honestly, I know you're not watching The Walking Dead anymore, but I was looking at it going like, he's about to sit up and attack them, isn't he?
Right? I know.
Yeah, and Ava, like, screams to the sky, no! It's not quite that dramatic, but yeah.
They're basically stuck in this fucking cabin in the middle of nowhere with nobody to, like, help get them out now. I mean, they've got, I guess, like, what was the whole deal with he was going to sneak them out? So yeah, I guess they have access to his, like, vehicle, I would think. I don't know, though, because it doesn't look like it's there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it made me think about when Boyd was talking to Ty right before Ty died, about how they were going to get him out over the hills, mm-hmm. and how they knew people who could kind of get them overland so no one could really follow them. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that Boyd's plan was also to go talk to Groobs, who would have been just as dead. Because again, he is like his eyes are gone. He's been dead a while.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like pudding.
Yes. Yeah. So we just have three more quick scenes, I guess. No, two. First is on the road. Boyd is in a cop car, just sort of lurking. Yeah. And he sees a red pickup truck, which he starts to follow.
This whole, like, the way that this is cut together, initially for a second, I thought Boyd was following Raylan.
Yeah, I actually thought the same thing because I was like taking notes as I'm watching. Mm-hmm. And I had to, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's cut. I didn't like that cut because it was definitely a little bit confusing because they show him pulling out after this car and then they show Raylan parking. And I'm like, wait. Like, and Raylan leaves his badge and gets out of the car and leaves what's-his-face sitting there. So I was like, is Boyd going to just come and kill? And then I was like, wait, hold on. That wasn't Raylan. And I just got all mixed up. So, yeah. The pickup truck, I don't know who that would be. I'm trying to think. Could it be, what's his face from Limehouse? Maybe?
Could be. Could be. Could be.
I don't know.
Shelby on the run again.
I'm just trying to imagine who, because it was a pickup truck that but Ava stole that. I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah, we will have to see.
Dun dun dun.
So yeah, our last scene. I'm sorry, Peter. Our last scene is Raylan putting a call in to Art. And he's notifying him that Earl is waiting in the car to be picked up. He's one of Boyd Crowder's guys, put him in protective custody, so on and so forth. And, yeah, he lays his badge down in the car and says he won't be back until he has Boyd, Ava, the money, or all three.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Art is like, dude, come the fuck on. What? Don't you dare. And he's like, what are you going to do? Send everybody after me? And Art's like, everybody, bitch, I will come after you. Fuck you. Which was kind of great, honestly. Like, Raylan versus Art is something that I feel like we've been building to forever.
Right?
You know, so I wouldn't, like, and they've almost done it a couple times, and then they just sort of let it fall into, like, a bureaucracy sort of thing instead.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to be versus, because I like them both, and I want them to work their shit out. But, like, how great would that be to watch, though?
Yeah, and I love the image of Art in his office, all alone, talking to Raylan on the phone in the middle of an empty street.
Yeah.
It's just, there is something sort of like Gary Cooper High Noon-ish about it. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it's Catch Me If You Can sort of thing. I don't know. I love it. But, yeah, that's the ending. Everyone's out looking for Boyd, so I'm coming after you myself.
Yep. Yeah, so this was a hell of a good episode. I like watched this and I was just texting you like, the fuck?
Yeah.
I was freaking out.
Yeah. There we are. 2 to go.
2. Goddamn. Well, everyone, I hope that you've really been enjoying the show. If you have, please leave us a review on iTunes, because that's how we know that you like us. Otherwise, we don't know. What are we supposed to think? Just read your mind? I can't do that. Stop thinking about porn. Probably. I don't know. I just shot in the dark. But yeah, guys, go ahead and leave us a review. Also, if you'd like to support the show, I know that we're coming to the end of this, but I do so many other shows that you would probably also really like. You should become a patron at patreon.com/unspoiled. And I haven't got anybody to greet this week. I don't have any new patrons for a whole week, which is rare. Usually I get at least like 3.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, weird long dry spell here. I have a suspicion as we get into the holiday season, it will begin to taper a bit because people are putting their money towards gifts and travel and whatever. But we don't have any new reviews. I don't have any new patrons. Everything is super sad. Guys, come on. So.
Oh, since you mentioned it, although they may not be able to donate or be a patron because they are saving money for gifts, if they are doing some early holiday shopping on Amazon.com,
dun, dun, dun,
they can still help you.
They can. Guys, did you know this?
unspoiledpodcast.com/Amazon.
Do it.
And you will spend no extra money on your gifts or your whatever, and Natasha gets a cut. Just for being awesome.
Yes, guys. unspoiledpodcast.com/Amazon. I feel like that's so easy to remember, and yet I never say it right the first time. And also, people in the patrons group are always like, what's the link again? And I'm like, why is it so difficult for all of us to remember this correctly? But it is.
I only got it right because I just used it.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Alan.
I did. I had to buy a little thing on Amazon, and I said, hey, you know what? I have an idea.
Yeah, I mean, guys, it really adds up. Like, I've had just I know of a couple of people who bookmarked that, started using it consistently, and just that has bumped it up enough because it's kind of compounded the way that Amazon decides how much money I get for each transaction is they give me more of a percentage of each transaction the more orders I get. So, you know, you start out getting like 4%, and then once you get like 30 orders, then you get 6%, and once you get 100 orders, then you get 10, and, you know, eventually you start to get like 15%, which it takes a while to get there, but once you do, they keep it there as long as those people are consistently ordering. So it really, really adds up more than just your individual orders. There's a whole other like algorithm going on behind the scenes y'all don't know about that makes it that much more of an impact. So yeah, please, if nothing else, definitely use that link and order whatever you normally would. And it's not like you pay extra. Amazon just gives me like a commission for sending you to their worldwide famous website that nobody's ever heard of before I said something about it.
Yeah, they're the 4th most popular site on the entire internet.
Right. But yeah, all right. Well, do you have anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, it's nothing new. I'm sure if you guys listen to this episode, then you've probably heard by now, but I'm on Twitter at Al Kingsley, and I'm on Facebook.
You're fading away. Come back.
I'm on Twitter at Al Kingsley, as you all probably know. I am on Facebook and all the Unspoiled chats and groups and stuff. And I am here for 2 more weeks. But if you can't wait to hear more of my dulcet tones, Natasha and I also did Unspoiled Hannibal, and we did Unspoiled True Detective. So you can check us out there, too. We're fun.
That was that shit, already, too, guys. Those were some good shows. You should check them out.
They really were.
Especially Hannibal. I think True Detective was awesome. But, you know, Hannibal was where my heart was. That was a real good one.
Hannibal was fantastic. I loved True Detective, but I was also, you know, working out how a podcast works. And so I have not gone back to listen to those. And I probably never will.
And also, I started off that one with Nina. So you're only like a host on, I think, after the 3rd episode or so, somewhere in there.
I came in episode 3.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, guys, check that stuff out. And I think that's about it, man. I just can't believe how close we are. I feel like we've been covering this forever.
We passed the 1-year mark not too long ago.
Did we?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, I think it's not like this show is so much longer than a lot of other shows I've covered, but we did take a bunch of breaks, so that stretched it out too. So yeah, but I really feel like this last season has been one of their best, which is so rare. So that's pretty cool. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much for listening. Support us when you can, and we will see you next week with the penultimate episode of Justified.
Bye, guys.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, you want some. I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at you, boy. You try to bogart, fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, you want some. I see them long, hard times to come. My life is hell, son, prepared to kill, son. Paradox of pain, baby, it's real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to value you, but if you're feeling tough, dog, I walk up all challenges. Ain't got no family.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.